podcast coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube on a Saturday. Here we're hoping to do this on Thursday, but life happens. We end up getting busy and end up having to move it to a Saturday morning, which is fine because anytime the Bison are in the national championship game, we have to have a podcast on it. And I couldn't think of anybody better than former Bison offensive lineman, barbecue sauce savant, and now that we've met in person, can say a good friend, Zach
Absolutely.
Willis. Zach, welcome on. Happy New Year. How are things?
Happy New Year. Appreciate you having me. I'm good. Busy as all get out. Wish I could get down to Frisco, but I guess I'll just have to enjoy the game from the comforts of my own home, which isn't too bad either.
Yeah, same thing. I wish. The bad part about being on the Mountain Time Zone is the game is right at 5:00, so it's quick.
Sure.
I made things work where I'm going to be done at 4 and I'll be home, so I'll have at least an hour to kind of get ready for everything. But been exciting. It's been a fun year to follow. A lot of kind of unknowns for the Bison. A lot not sure with the new coaching staff. The portal is always an adventure, as our friends from Brookings are learning right now, which I think we have to start by talking about that. There's been some Jackrabbit fans are a bit in shambles right now, and I know you have such a good relationship with them.
Yeah, they love me.
Well, that's the problem with them is that I've learned, especially after the playoff game, is they get out on their high horses and act like they are so much the better fan base. Yeah. But I keep receipts. I know you definitely do. But I know from my experience that I remember when I went to the game in Brookings in 2013, the negative 30-yard game by the Jackrabbits. From the picture you have with their offensive coordinator, where you said to his face, "Isn't that the game they had like negative rush yards?"
Yeah, that was not a good way to sell yourself on a visit to a different school. But
yeah. I think your fate was already decided. You knew where you were going. But I remember that. I remember that game where they chanted "F the Bison" the entire game. Mm-hmm. And if we're gonna talk classlessness, I also know people who have had garbage thrown at them as they were walking to their seats. I know people who've had their vehicles vandalized. They've had their run. Tip your cap to them, whatever. They can talk. Even last year, I went to the Morgan Wallen concert and ended up talking to these guys behind. Figured out they were Jackrabbit fans. They figured out I was an NDSU fan. The entire concert, Zach, in between songs, it was they were screaming "Horns down, Bison suck" the entire time. Yeah. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, by the end, I was a little bit annoyed. So like after I turned behind them, I shook their hands. I said, "Good luck, you guys. We'll see you. You had to run, but you're going to be a poverty program in the next 5 years," which might be.
It appears your prediction is on pace to being correct.
Yeah.
my whole thing with them is like, they finally got a little bit of taste of what we did. It's so different, and all these teams that like want to act and pretend like they're doing something close to what we did. We're playing for our 10th national title on Monday. There are levels to this thing. Congratulations, you won 2 in a row. Hell of an accomplishment. Very hard to do. You are not us, and that is just a fact of the matter. And you can tell by how they respond to losses and how they respond to wins and how they're responding now to getting eaten alive by the transfer portal and Fargo media covering it and, losing a coach and him trying to gut everybody. It's like, man, welcome to the show. You wanted to be at the big boys. Now you get to play the big boy games, because it's hard to do what we did and it's not fun. And you got to do a lot of stuff besides what's on the field that you don't think about to maintain that level of dominance.
Yep. And the nonstop, or even after the SDSU game, where oh my gosh, Cam Miller said he hates the Jackrabbits. Wow, that's such a loser statement. Why would a rival say they don't like the other team? It's, well, college football, it's a rivalry. That's how this works. I was like, oh boy. And then just the ratio of Bison fans showing all the things South Dakota State has done over the years, not to mention all the dirty plays that they have done on the field.
Correct. Yeah, and that's like, they thought I was lying. We used to watch cut-ups of them intentionally injuring players. And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say, but there was 5 minutes of you guys doing stuff that is either an unwritten rule or an outright penalty, and something that should get you kicked out of a game. And I'm arguing with Sioux Falls media or guys down in South Dakota who are supposed to be impartial. And that's been the funniest reaction to all of this, is their clutching of the pearls of Fargo media covering this. And it's like, we used to sit in on meetings to begin the season, and they would show us slideshows of Fargo media people that we knew were quote unquote enemies of the program. We knew not to interact with them, not to give them, special insights. It was the media is never on your side when you're a football team like that. Everything has to stay behind closed doors, because our demise is good for their business. They are rooting for that. And now our success is also good for their business, but it doesn't get as much clicks as saying, Mike McFeely. I like Mike. I've interacted with him a few times, and, we shoot the shit back and forth. But him, after we lost to UND, I think he wrote an article declaring the dynasty was over.
Yep, he did. I remember.
Man, and Mike is a provocateur, right? Like, I know what his game is. That was probably one of his best performing articles of the year, if I had to guess. There's no shame in that game, but you have to understand what the media is. And now you look at how they've covered SDSU's whole breakup with Jimmy Rogers, and SDSU fans are losing their minds that they're unethical reporters and they're getting leaks from places they shouldn't have it. And it's like, man, welcome to the show. You guys need to act like you've been here before.
Well, or the fact that when they were, because the forum has done that every year, because I've looked at it, I've checked to see what players from what schools are leaving the portal. I remember looking at it the last couple of years, and all of a sudden this is news that why are you covering this, but you're not talking about the other programs? Like they just show the video. It's like, it's their job. And like McFeely tweeted out, he said that if South Dakota media isn't going to do it, we'll do it. And
right. Well, the whole other part of it too is, if they have access to it, no matter what it is, like I said, if we leak something that we thought was confidential, of course it's coming out in the news. They're reporters. If they get their hands on information, they're reporting it. It doesn't matter where they got it from. It's just, that is the game. I don't know why they're so shocked by this, because they're so coddled by Sioux Falls media and people in South Dakota. They're like, I can't believe a reporter is doing his job, rather than just kissing the feet of everything happening in Brookings.
Yeah. Well, so after Rogers left on Saturday night, I watched, it was like Jackrabbit Illustrated. I watched their YouTube show after Rogers left, and they talked about how they're collective. And part of this is it hasn't been aggressive. Like, they announced it down in Frisco last year, and then I guess there has been nothing done with it to try and keep players. And then I remember at one point Amar Johnson commented and basically said that they aren't doing enough to keep players in Brookings to where it's going to gut the roster. Yeah. And which is happening now. And I think they've kind of weathered that storm a little bit looking at Twitter, but it's still, I mean, this, welcome to the club, fellas. It's
well, and it's so funny when class and all of this, and once the big bully finally punches back, then it's, oh man, what are you guys doing? You guys are so mean. So when we start winning again and the boogeyman is back and we start talking shit on Twitter, It's now we're the most evil guys on the face of the planet.
Yep.
And it's like, I remember UND fans, I remember SDSU fans laughing at us when whoever it was DJ Hart,
Siegel.
Dom Jones leaving, Siegel right after the season, and oh, it's a mutiny in Fargo. What's going on there? The chickens always come to roost, boyos. It just is what
Yep.
it is. And, you know, the Jackrabbit Illustrated guys have been especially funny, just like watching them melt down.
Oh, they've turned on Jimmy Rogers.
Oh yeah, I watched that same show you were talking about, just a couple of clips, and I clicked in right when they were dogging Fargo media people about being mean, covering this whole thing, and they're lying, and it's being unethical. And they've been doing their running tally of portal players, and it's at like 11 or 12 to mitigate the damage. And I think the count was 28 last I checked yesterday of names in the portal. And no, that doesn't mean that everybody's leaving or they can't withdraw their name or whatever. They're not going to be Jackrabbits next season, but there are that many guys in the portal. That is confirmed. And they're just, man, they are. SCSU needs to cut them a check for like fighting that front on Twitter, because they're like really starting to embarrass themselves doing the like tweeting at recruits, tweeting at players, that whole thing. It's getting very, very cringe and desperate looking.
Yeah. No, and there's one other one that's down there. We won't mention his name, but as you call them on Twitter, the Skip Bayless of South Dakota media.
Oh my God, that guy. Like, I don't know if it's his demeanor or like how he carries himself or what, but like the speaking in absolutes and then just being wrong all season.
Like when he said South Dakota State was going to roll NDSU and Fargo the first time.
He gets under my skin on like anybody else does. And I'm sure he's a nice guy, like if I met him, but holy cow, is he good at his job of getting engagement.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more. What are your thoughts on on Dan Jackson as their new head coach?
Well, I don't really know a lot about him, but I did have some skeletons in the closet cross my feed when he got hired. I don't know if anybody saw that, but he got suspended at Vanderbilt for like agreeing with Kanye West or saying that Kanye was right or something like that. And that's not really one you want on the resume, because even if you believe that, whatever, believe it, have your own beliefs about Kanye and what he said. I think anti-Semitism is bad, just laying that out there. But probably just keep that one to yourself, especially if you're a public figure working at Vanderbilt. You would imagine that would come out at some point. So poor judgment on Dan Jackson's part.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious to see what they do with the staff, because it sounds like the Freund is going with Rogers to Washington State, but it sounds like the actual play caller, it sounds like he's getting some Big Ten attention and going somewhere in the Big Ten, and he's not going to be following him too.
That's crazy to me
Pullman.
too, because that was an obvious weakness when they played the Bison both times, and that guy's getting lit up by Big Ten schools.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where Gronowski's going to end up, because when he didn't have 3 NFL linemen and all NFL skill position, this year, he looked good against those lower level teams. But when he played up to Oklahoma State or NDSU USD, he did not look. He looked, watching that game in Fargo when I was there, I mean, he had a lot of guys that were wide open streaking down the field, and he just didn't see them or missed them. And a lot of balls that were just thrown into the stands.
He looked almost, and in general, he looked pedestrian against higher competition this year. But when he played the Bison, it was a Gronowski we hadn't seen. Like that stone cold killer confidence where like we kind of knew every time we played him up until this point what it was going to be. He just looked visibly shaken. He was missing checkdowns. He was missing screen passes. And it's like, this is the guy we were afraid of the whole time. This is actual Mark Gronowski without, like you said, 2 all-pro NFL tight ends, 3 offensive linemen that are in the league now, and then 2 twin receivers that got camp invites. Like, this is what he is.
2 NFL running backs.
Right, which will probably bode well for him when he goes up to higher competition because his skill players will be better. But he's also going to be playing higher competition, so we'll see. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's the anointed one like everybody said he was.
No. By all accounts, he seems like a good dude, and he's a tremendous leader. His intangibles are kind of what set him apart. And now I lost my train of thought, but I'm not sure because he was visiting Iowa, and I don't know. I mean, that's kind of where quarterbacks go to die. So I'm curious to see what other interest he's going to get here.
I saw somebody tweet. They retweeted that Gronowski was visiting Iowa, and they said, if I'm an NFL GM, he's immediately off my big board for poor decision making. But I mean, it'd be cool. Like I'd take him at Notre Dame, truthfully.
Yeah.
You guys just got Bryson Underwood, so you don't need him.
We did. Couldn't even complete a forward pass and beat Ohio State and Alabama, which is just hilarious in itself. But
just an insult to the forward pass and the development of the game of football. Michigan was this year.
We're taking it back. We're taking it back to the 30s, which well, if you wanted to see offense taken back to the 30s, all you had to do was watch Beulah High School from 2012 to 2023. Where it was the offense. It was like that. It was an offense that was invented before football was invented. I like to joke where it was all misdirection. They had like 4 people in the backfield. Like 3/4 of the time, they would never even snap it to the quarterback. It would be offset to their sniffer or just in theory, a very easy offense to stop if you do your job.
You got to,
but they're. Yep. And they were so well coached at it. So they knew what they were doing and they were so patient. Like they would take a big play or they would take 12 minutes of take an entire quarter with the ball and be fine with it.
Yeah. I remember a couple like Davies ran like a modified wing tee when I was in high school. And then Cheyenne ran the triple option. So I played against it a couple times, but when we did the Mondack Bowl my senior year, by the way, lost 65-0, no big deal. I checked myself out at halftime of that one, but our coach was from rugby. I can't remember his name. Great dude. He was chosen.
Grachow, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
He was the coach there for a long time.
That sounds correct. And
his son is actually an assistant at Beulah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense because we tried to install a wing tee offense in the 4 days of practice that we had. And we're like, dude, come on, let's just spread this thing out and air it out. What are we doing?
But yeah, so let's get into the game here. We've talked enough about other things. So NDSU Montana State on Monday night in prime time, 5 Mountain, 6 Central, wherever you are listening, and it's gonna be the 2 best teams in the FCS all year. I firmly believe that. NDSU had that one hiccup against South Dakota, which I think if NDSU were to play them again, NDSU would have won by 70. Because that was just kind of an outlier, weird, just bad, couple of bad bounces, couple of missed. Well, I guess I'll drop down to Jack Rabbit level of a couple of bad holds that were not called.
Yeah.
And
that place is just bad juju too. The Dakota Dome is it's impossible to make your own energy and get excited to play there. It's no matter how good they are. It's a tough place to play.
Yeah. And NDSU Montana State, the only time they've really been challenged has been that first game of the year where they were down 31-14 against New Mexico and came back to one, which was a very exciting game. But, the thing, the biggest downfall of Montana State is that they say they haven't played anybody, which is probably true in the sense, but they've also won and they've dominated every team they've played. But it seems like, too, though, some of the better or more tighter or better played teams is they kind of almost give off that Texas vibe in the sense that where they get out to those fast starts and then they just kind of peter out and they kind of just coast. And like you saw it against Montana where they got out to a hot start. You saw it against South Dakota where they got out to hot starts, and then there was just kind of nothing for the rest of the game, and then able to kind of make plays when they had to win. But when you watch Montana State, what do you see?
I see exactly what you're describing. This like coasting, which if you're talented enough, you can get away with that. But when you start playing teams that are at your skill level or above, they can take advantage. I think if I was a Montana State fan, my worst nightmare would be NDSU scoring 14 in the first 15 or so minutes. Because is touchdown Tommy really going to be the guy, to carry you all the way back and lift you through the entire game? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I don't think they've been real battle tested this year. Whereas I look at NDSU, they're healthy now for the most part going into this game, and they've won some absolute meat grinders and played in some meat grinders, including the first game when they lost to Colorado. I will take that battle tested team that knows how to play for 60 minutes and beyond if necessary above any team that's blown teams out all season. We've seen this story a million times going in and playing Jacksonville State or going in and playing Sam Houston in Frisco. Any of these, Towson, they think everything's awesome and they're walking 10 feet off the ground. They can't be touched. And then you play the big bad Bison, and it's like, man, this is an actual dogfight. I don't like this very much.
Montana State the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing, yeah, man, you want to talk about a broken team. They were done playing in the second quarter. But these guys, what I love about the North Dakota State offense is obviously Cam is, I think, led his way to a deserving Walter Payton Award season. And Bryce Lyons, obviously, this air attack is honestly more dynamic than we've had in a long time. But what I love about the Bison offense is we will line up and we will run power until you don't want to run power anymore, because we will keep doing it. And eventually you're going to have to decide, your DN's going to have to decide if he wants to take on another kick out block from Truman Weirmeyer. He's going to have to decide. Your middle linebacker is going to have to choose if he wants to eat another double team. And these things just chip away and chip away. And if you haven't been through a game like that in a season, it's really, really hard to replicate what it's like doing that for 60 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, too, is one thing is Tommy Mellott has never finished a game against NDSU. He's been hurt both times. And I think, like, especially defensively for NDSU, the big thing is the D-line's tackling, obviously, because they are very good at breaking tackles. But the other key for that is the defensive line is going to have to play, like, I think we're going to need big games like we have, like what you got from Dutton Heffer, Mostert, Lashaka Rokes, all those guys. You're going to need them, and you're going to need them to rush with great integrity, because Tommy Mellott, if he sees a crease, whether it's outside of the pocket or if he's able to step up into it, if he finds it, he's going to take off and he can burn you. I think if they're able to keep him in the pocket, he's going to struggle, because he's going to get happy feet and he's not going to have anywhere to run. And that's where he is dangerous. He's improved immensely as a passer from that 21 national title game, where he basically was, it was the six-back offense where they were just going to run the ball as much as they could. But he still isn't great from the pocket. He wants to get out, and he doesn't want to sit in the pocket either.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just break it down as simply as possible, we just beat a better quarterback than Tommy Mellott. We just beat him in the semifinals. We can handle that workload. It's like you said, do you want to rush with integrity? What's the game plan going to be as far as being in man coverage and blitzing underneath it? Because if you don't get home, it's wide open for a guy like him. And then it's all about mitigating damage. They're going to get explosives. That just is what it is with this Montana State offense. But you have to tackle and make it 25 instead of 50 in a touchdown. So it's going to be interesting to see how we match up. And, Are we going to be in this Tampa 2 defense, hard flats, and a middle linebacker kind of roaming the middle? Are we going to, work in cover 2 and man underneath to kind of have those safeties' eyes on the quarterback at all times? How are we going to play it? It's going to be pretty interesting. But I mean, like I said, we just beat a quarterback better than Tommy in a pretty successful fashion and turned him into a quarterback that looks like he isn't better than Tommy, but he is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think offensively, because even Montana State, their running backs are pretty good. They got a freshman of the year. He was like freshman of the year in the Big Sky, who's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
And tackling, and then red zone defense. I think because, like you said, Montana State's going to move the ball, and it's going to come down to, can NDSU bow up in the red zone and make them kick field goals instead of getting 6?
Right. Which they've been incredible at this year.
Yep. And on offensively, I mean, they just need to keep doing what they do. I know Polasek, which I'm guessing you're going to see a big game from the running backs, because he was not happy with the running game from against South Dakota State. Yeah. And I expect that Cam Miller is also going to be a factor in the run game. It's going to be his last game, so they're going to let him. And nobody's really seen it until this South Dakota State game from a few weeks ago, where that was kind of that extra weapon. And then even as bad as the running back run game was against South Dakota State, I thought in the second half they were effective enough to where South Dakota State had to at least respect it, where you saw those linebackers creeping up and biting off the play action, where we were able to get those over the top shots to Bryce Lance.
Yeah, that's what's really fascinating about the NDSU offense, and I really try to explain this to fans that are interested and want to hear it. When we would game plan for teams, everything was dictated by how their defense played, and not in we're responding kind of way, but in a way that our playbook literally went back to 1940, like you're talking about. We have plays all the way back to then. So we can run whatever we want. We were dynamic enough as an offense to attack weaknesses that we found out in scouting. Like when we'd play Illinois State, big, heavy D tackles, fast trigger linebackers that are coming downhill. Okay, we're probably not going to run it a lot between the tackles. And then you go play a team like USD or SDSU. Excuse me, SDSU, where it's, hey, D tackles are going to anchor in here, but our linebackers flow fast. They're going to trigger as fast as they see motion. Christian Roseboom, we're going to go chase guys down. We're going to
twist ankles.
Exactly. Use the sideline as our 12th defender. And that's just how their defense played. Okay, well, we knew to adapt our play calling to each way. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they decide and see in Montana State's playbook. Like I said, if it's a fast flow linebacker, they want to stay back, sit on their heels. Guess what? Here's power 20 times. If you want to come and trigger down fast in the A gaps and hit guys in the mouth, here's G, here's outside zone. Good luck stopping it, because we can run everything you'd ever want to see in a playbook. That's what's really fun about the NDSU offense. And now you have this added level where this Cam Bryce connection is honestly unlike anything I've seen, as far as maybe Easton and Shep, as far as having that kind of connection. They just know where everybody's going to be at the same time, and they're always in communication and on the same page. But man, it's pretty special what those guys got going, and I wish we had another year of Cam to see him play with Bryce some more. Yeah,
for sure. And well, hopefully we're going to see the same with that same connection with Cole Payton. But going back, receivers, Cam and Bryce, I'm trying to think here. You could probably have to go back a few quarterbacks. Jensen Vra, that was a pretty lethal connection, or Steve Walker and Cole Heckendorf, also another really good lethal connections.
Yeah, I think maybe you could count Carson and RJ a little bit, but I mean, Stick and Shep were like sharing a brain out there. That was unlike anything. That was just the two smartest guys on the field working together. Again, I wish we had more of it, but Trey and Christian, that would have been really, really special to see more of.
Yep.
And if they got to play 3 full years together, but we've been pretty blessed. And man, Bryce is a hell of a ball player, and it's fun to see Cam get him the ball because, I mean, one career catch before this season, and now he's breaking the all-time touchdown record. And honestly, next year, Polisic mentioned him adding a little bit of weight to gain some strength and some speed, and he's going to be a real problem if he gets faster and stronger from what he is already.
Oh yeah, for sure. And hopefully we're able to keep him, obviously, because I'm sure there are teams that are already trying to go after him. But I guess you've played in the national championship game, so you know what this week is like. What's that kind of like from a player perspective? Because anytime NDSU's been in Frisco, they always look like the more prepared, ready to go team when the game kicks off. What are can you take us back to when you were playing? What were some of the things the coaches did to get you guys ready and playing at your peak? Because it is a long layoff, and as we've seen from the college football playoff, the teams that had those long layoffs haven't won.
Yeah, I think it was a 10-day turnaround this year from the semifinal to the national championship, and I think that's significantly shorter than what we had. I think we had a couple of weeks in between the final game, and because it was always around Christmas weekend, and then
it was always that Friday of finals was the semis.
Yeah, and then going into the second week of January, the second Saturday of January.
Mm-hmm.
What they're really good at, and I imagine it took some fine tuning to figure it out, but it's balancing. It's almost like a work-life balance. It's a funny way to put it, but there's bowling, there's going out to eat with everybody, there's, if you're a younger guy, going and getting a lift in at a local high school. There's just things that break it up so it's not all football, and guys can just relax a little bit and understand that, like, man, it's just another football game. Just because they have the title on it and you're in Frisco and you play for the big championship doesn't change anything, that we're just here to play a football game. There was a lot of downtime in between meetings and after meetings. I mean, we'd get done with meetings at 6 p.m. We could go walk around the square at the Omni and go see our families. And, me and Nash went and got Raising Cane's 100 times when we were down there and we roomed together. But just being able to break it up a little bit and making guys understand that, like, guys, don't get in your head about this. We're just here to play football. We just had to come a little bit early. And it's a perfect balance where I want to say we would go down Wednesday if we played on Saturday. So it's not too long, but it's just enough time to get, like, acclimated and, like, hey, let your body know that, like, hey, I'm playing football here this weekend. And like I said, just kind of settle in. And I remember, like, we'd be more fired up to play like Youngstown State in the regular season. And we'd look at each other in pregame meal before the Natty and just be like, guys, what do we have to lose? It's just, let's go cut it loose. Let's have fun. And that's what it was every time. And I think that's what you see translate. The lights get a little bright for teams that haven't done it before, and teams that have done it before and lost. That pressure all starts to build up, and you start listening to narratives and things that don't matter. Man, the Bison are just there to play football. It's no different than what you're doing when you're a kid. FM Athletics Saturday morning.
Well, and that might come into factor. I'm glad you kind of brought that up about narratives, because that's been kind of the talking point these last few weeks, is that Montana State, they've looked like the best team. They're on a mission, looking like those early Bison teams where there's just nothing that's going to phase them. What's going to happen when they get punched in the mouth? How are they going to respond to that?
Mm-hmm.
And, I think you brought up you talked about, it's just another football game, but bringing that intensity. And I think Polisic has done, I think that was a big reason why they brought him back is, you hear him talk about these rivalry games like they are big games. And, in the past where it was just, it's just another game, but it's not. And I think Polisic has done a good job of really, and I think that's where his FBS his experience in the FBS has come back and really helped because, what was the narrative under Matt Entz is that in big games, teams, they didn't look ready to play or they look tight, where here, Polasek, who's played against Minnesota, Wisconsin, Wyoming, I think Colorado State's their big rival. So he knows the importance of what those rivalry games mean to fans and to the people and former players, to where he brought it. Yes, it's another game, but this does have a little bit extra juice to it.
Yeah. And I think it's the two separations, right? Like that side of the coin, that is how Chris Kleiman and Matt Entz talked. They're like, guys, it's football, Craig Bowl. It's football. It's another game. It's our next opponent. But when everybody in the locker room is looking at each other and understanding, like, hey, man, this one means a little more. We always talk about playing for more than yourself. That's what we're doing here this week. And I think you've seen that translate in the rivalry games that we played this year. I don't know if I'd consider USD isn't a rivalry, but that was the one game that we looked down on and like just looked slow and lethargic and gross. But the way we played SDSU, we haven't played SDSU like that in a long, long time, where it was just loose and guys playing and flowing on instinct rather than, analyzing and being so locked in between the ears. And same with UND. It's like, guys, we're NDSU, they're UND. Let's go play the game. Yeah. And that showed on the field. What I really enjoy and want to tip my hat to Coach Polasek on is he said it when he got hired. One of his biggest regrets in his coaching career was after they won the title against Jacksonville State in 2015. A player came up to him and apologized for a play that he messed up. And he said, I will never harbor a culture like that in my locker room again, where guys aren't happy that they won. And you're seeing that with these guys. They're having fun. I think that is something that, and again, I've had this conversation a million times where it sounds like I'm dogging Polasek and the former, regime, and I'm not, because I played for those guys and I owe a lot to them. And I think they did an incredible job for what they were handed. But it's just this mounting pressure that comes with the dynasty, right? You have all this pressure that comes and all these expectations to uphold. If you just break through that and say, man, that's all narrative BS anyway, let's just go have fun and play football. You're seeing what you see with NDSU this year. And that's been really fun to, like, the guys just have a glint in their eye again. They're smiling after games. They're dapping each other. Look at the energy on defense when somebody makes a play. There's 11 guys around the football, and they're all celebrating with each other. And a little bit of that is, I think, what was missing over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I would probably agree. They just look like they're playing looser.
Yep.
Where they're not afraid to make a mistake. They're just going to go to the next play.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into predictions, I gotta ask you, because you've been to you were in Frisco a few times. When as a player, what were some of your? Do you have any good stories you can share as far as, because I know they do a lot of like team on team, like bowling, and like it was like a barbecue bowl or something like that. Do you have any good memories or good stories from that?
Well, there were a couple times where, and it's funny now looking back on it, on the Signetti-led JMU teams.
Oh, God.
We knew we were kicking their ass because we'd walk into, we had a big, like, banquet. It was just to go to, like, shake hands, rub elbows with the important people of the NCAA and Frisco. And they did some awards and motivational speaking or whatever. And the attire was always, like, business professional. We had to pack suits. We had to dress nice. And both times we played JMU, they walked in jumpsuits, like their Adidas, Nike sweatsuits, and we're like, man, they can't even get this right. But man, I'd really.
But he wins though.
Yeah, right. We beat the shit out of top 25 teams. No, you don't. When have you ever done that?
I guess that's the double. You got the best of both worlds there. You got to watch Notre Dame kick their ass. And
yeah, that was great. And I almost kind of respect Signetti because he leans so much into being the villain and his teams kind of adapt that. And if you do it hard enough and commit to the bit hard enough, they'll start to morph to that. It's just the antithesis to NDSU. It's the other side of the coin where, we're always respectful, and man, if we lose, we'll tip our caps and say, "Hey, good game, pal. You're better than us today." And that is so different, because I remember when Danucci threw the pick, it was, we were the better team. They didn't win, we lost. And it's like, okay, well, we're getting on the plane with the title. However you want to word it, go ahead.
That one, I watched that when he said that too. It was like, you guys got ran all over that game,
Yeah.
and even I think Brian Shore said the same thing when they lost in 17 to NDSU in the championship game. And wasn't there? I thought I remember hearing something like there was like JMU guys at like your bowling event or whatever that was, where they were like John with you guys and trying to start something too.
Possibly. That sounds like some Cordell Volson events that he would have gotten into, but we beat them. We had like a bowl off or whatever in 17. And then when we went in 19, we went to Top Golf and we had to go against them. And it was like Zeb and their quarterbacks or whoever. And I'm trying to think of the timing of this. Yeah, had to have been 19. And anyway, it was like six people from each team. And then the sixth person was like a ringer. And they brought out some like head pro that was like a JMU football guy, but got into golf after he was done. And then we trotted out Amy Olson. And she just boat raced him. And it was an absolute electric factory watching Amy just take this guy to the woodshed. It was great.
That's awesome. That's so good. But even I remember JMU in Fargo in 21, because there was some pregame stuff where they were yanking chains or doing something like that. It was just kind of, and I've been always like everybody, when everybody was saying that Cignetti is God's gift to college football, I was like, I don't know. We're gonna see. I mean, he wins until he doesn't, and then when he loses, it's everybody else's fault but his.
Yeah.
So
and then just like the most cowardly, piss down my leg punt of all time against Notre Dame, and it's like, if you're gonna be that guy, be that guy. But if he talks like that and starts winning, and Indiana's like a perennial 10-win team, that's good for college football. Having a guy that'll stand up there at the podium and talk like that. But man, it's just like, what are you doing on game day before the game? Like, we beat the shit out of top 25 teams. No, you don't. Anywhere on your history, no, you don't.
And then before you go into the locker room, instead of going in with the team, you go over to the college game day set and talk.
Exactly.
Shane Gillis, who is incredible, goes, ask Nick Saban, would you do that? No. But let's get into predictions here. I appreciate you joining me and spending Saturday morning. I'm glad we were able to get to do this. It's always fun when we catch up and chat. So hopefully we'll be able to do this again at some point down the line here. Absolutely. So Zach, what do you got for a prediction in this game?
I think I don't envision a world in where this game is close within a score. It's just how much is that extended. So I'm going to go like 35-24 Bison. I think the Bobcats are going to get theirs. They're going to score, and like I said, explosives, and they're going to get a lot of shots at the red zone, I imagine. But this Bison team, man, just has so much momentum, and that turnaround day only being 10 days is really good, because that momentum is still high. You're still carrying that on from SDSU, where 2 weeks it starts to get like, well, I can't remember the last time we played a football game. The piss is still hot. Politics is still saying the right things to get these guys going. We're coming back. A lot of the key guys are healthy, or healthy enough to get through one more football game. And it's like, besides the SDSU title in Frisco, where we all kind of thought like it doesn't really matter who we roll out there, we're kind of
Yep.
this is going to be a tough one for us to win. The Bison don't lose in Frisco. When they go down there, there's just this automatic feeling of like, that's just, you're going down there to take care of business, and that's what they do. I could really see mid-second, late second, early third quarter really starting to see those cracks start to break. I remember, I mean, what Hunter Lipke did to Troy Anderson is illegal in 12
Oh,
countries. And just every play, it's like, do you want to line up and do this for 60 minutes so you can either tap out or we're going to keep doing it? Is how nobody is wired in the country to play against that offense for 60 minutes that way, because it's horrible. It's a not fun experience. I think you could really start to see those cracks begin to show right after half, and then I think the Bison just step on the gas pedal and close that thing out. Get number 10.
that's right. I that Hunter Lipke play. My favorite is after in the media when he was getting asked about like, you could have ran in, but why did you decide to truck that guy? I wanted to make a statement. And after that, it was like, I think everybody knew who was watching it on TV in the stands knew, okay, yeah, NDSU is going to walk to their 9th national title. And
I almost got kicked out of the press box for that one when Hunter did that, because it was my first year after I got done playing, and then I was in the press box with Bison Report, and he did that, and I almost ran down on the field and like dapped him up while he did the leg dab.
Yeah, that and yeah, who knows how different that game in 22 would have been if NDSU was actually healthy and not missing like their entire team.
Right.
But I similarly think to you, we talked about it earlier, is that Montana State's going to move the ball. Can NDSU not limit the big play to just a big play, not a big play, instead of a 50-yard play, 25. I think red zone, I think in the end, I think what's Montana State going to do in the red zone? I think NDSU, I think they have a plan. I think I like the way that they have been playing. And I think they're going to be able to hold Montana State to field goals in the red zone. So I got NDSU, and offensively, I think they're just going to keep rolling. Cam Miller is going to cap off what's been a stellar career that no one's going to talk about and very underappreciated.
I'm going to talk about it. He deserves his flowers.
He does. Absolutely. He's been told he wasn't even supposed to. He came to NDSU and was basically, from what I've understood, it seems like he was just going to kind of be the backup guy and kind of that Cole Davis type of quarterback. And he's going to go on to, if it comes in regular circumstances, he's probably tied with Gronowski for the most wins in college football history. He's got 44, I think.
Yeah, he was supposed to be a later career playing guy, and just kind of trial by fire, thrown in as a freshman in that spring season. And then they brought in Quincy Patterson, and that was supposed to be the answer. And look who was starting at the end of that season. He's a special kid. I saw him when he was 18 on campus, and now seeing where he is now, just an absolute stone cold killer. I'm excited for him to go finish this one off. And the other thing that, playing into this prediction that a lot of people haven't talked about this season that I've seen is this turnover ratio and how good NDSU has been of protecting the football and taking the football away. That has really been something that has been missing in the last few years, that like complementary sense to it. When the defense is down, the offense can go score 40 if they need to. And if the offense is having a tough day, the defense has stepped up and taken care of business like they have in both SDSU games and other big games before that. So I'm really excited. It seems like they're slowly becoming one of my favorite Bison teams of just how they were counted out. And it's all guys that were freshmen when I was a senior, and now this is their last year. And the official stamp of approval that I'm an old guy now. I'm an old head. And these guys are playing in their last game in the green and gold. And like I said, they're just becoming one of my favorite teams of everybody thought this thing was done. And if this current regime, and honestly, this is all gravy to me because I didn't expect Polisic to be playing for a national title, and that's not a critique on him. That was just what I thought after seeing the team last year, and new coach starting to install his culture. But man, these guys are playing with their hair on fire. They're having fun, and they are beating the shit out of people. And I expect that to continue on Saturday.
Yep. And my prediction is I got NDSU 35, Montana State 26 here on them. So gonna be an exciting game. It's gonna be one of those days of where it feels like it takes forever to get there. I don't know
how do you feel about the Monday night kick?
I don't hate it because you get that's how like the FBS does it. It's always that Monday. I just wish the game would kick off at like 6 instead of 5 or 6:30, where you get a little bit more time. But usually in these big games, when I'm a fan, and I probably get way more invested into it than I should, going back to this NDSU or the NDSU or Michigan Ohio State games, those games where like the Michigan Ohio State game is like I'll wake up at 8 o'clock and it'll feel like 5 hours before that game starts, and it just minute by minute, it's like just start this game. Or even going back to when I last year when we were playing when I was coaching for Trinity, the Velva and the Kindred game, it just felt like forever. Like the bus ride, it's like a 3-hour ride to Velva. It felt like 6 hours. You get there 2 hours before, that felt like 4, and then the game starts and it's like, and then we were up and it was like, come on, this clock, it feels like it's a second, but it feels like it's like a half a second, and it's like, just end this, I just want to be able to celebrate and enjoy the win. But same thing, it's like even like the SDSU game is I got up, I went and worked out, and I got back at like 9, an hour before the game, and it felt like 2 hours before. And it was just like, come on, get this game started. And probably, I think I was telling people, like I was sweating that entire second half where I had to go and like put deodorant on again to stop the sweat. And then we won. It was pandemonium in my house.
Right. I think it's Monday might be my most unproductive day at work, possibly ever. Just counting down the days, and it kind of sucks just for like PTO reasons and traveling, because it's not fun to like. Now you can go down Saturday, but like, are you going to get the extra days of that vacation after a Monday kick? You're going home on Tuesday, and then you're worthless on Wednesday. And even in town here, a 6 o'clock kick, game's over at 9:30. How late am I going to celebrate before I have to take a PTO on Tuesday? And I didn't even go to the game, So I don't know. College football feels like it's meant to be played on Saturday, but I get it. It's a business decision. There's no competition as far as it'll be a primetime game and good for the brand. So that side I get, but doesn't matter. They could play that thing on a damn Tuesday, and I'll be in Nashville next year.
Yep. Yeah, I that's going to be tough. I wish I wanted to go to this one, but there's just way too many unknowns and too much unpredictability. I was, best of both worlds, was hoping to see a Cowboys game and a Bison National Championship, but the Cowboys, they're done. They're bad.
We won't talk about that. Want to watch the Cowboys this year?
There ain't much to watch because I want to watch Trey Lance and Hunter Lipke. That's the spin zone I'm going to go with.
Fair enough. There you
go. Well, I think that wraps this episode up. Appreciate you joining us. So make sure you guys tune in, or we'll post this later today. But Zach, if you want to plug your socials to see where you can where we'll hopefully be taking our victory lap on Monday, where they can find you.
Yeah, Twitter is where I do most of my work. Just at Zach Willis 57. Don't follow me. That sounds bad, but I get a lot of people who like see one interaction with me and then they follow me off of that, and then I check in 2 weeks and they're unfollowed me. And I get it. It's if you're not like looking for something, I don't do anything to like protect a brand. It really is just me unfiltered on Twitter. So if you want to see a lot of shit talking and a lot of shit posting about dumb stuff that I consume in my life, you can follow me there, or you can buy some barbecue sauce. Big Deck Barbecue, Cashwise, Hornbacher's Family Fare. If you're in North Dakota, we're kind of saturating it all over the place, so you can be able to find it. But otherwise, give us a shout on bigdeckbbq.com. You can order on there. We'll ship it to your door ready to go. So that's all I got. Appreciate you having me. It's always fun to catch up, and hopefully we'll be enjoying some TikTok beers after this Bison win on Monday.
That is right. So that wraps this episode up. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. We'll talk to you next time. All right. Gotta end on